In this life, you are produced by the machine that is producing you. In this life, we have the option of choosing how we are going to relate to the machine that is producing us. The machine that is producing the human being is the human program. And the human program is basically the nervous system and the brain. We are produced by that machine. Furthermore, we are produced, and you are produced, and I am produced, not only by the human program, not only by the makeup of the nervous system and of the brain, by the hardware. We are also produced by the programs, by the deep-seated, the deep-rooted programs inside of ourselves, which are the programs of deep psychology, or the programs that were created because of trauma, because of experience. Basically, they are created because of trauma, because we are all traumatized in our own way. Some people have major trauma, some people have minor trauma, some people are able to see and help themselves out of the difficulties of living with trauma. Some people are not. But what is common for nearly every person in this world is that we don't see the machine that is producing us. We don't know and we don't see, we don't realize that we are a product of this machine. We are a personality, a persona, an individual, a spirit, a soul, heart, essence, the thing that we are in our essential self, that lives inside this machine. And even the soul, heart, essence that we are is also in some sense a result or a product of that machine, because it comes from genes, it comes from DNA, it comes from upbringing, it comes from everything that we have experienced, everything that constitutes the content that is inside the machine that is producing us. We don't know this, usually people don't know this, so people are not able to liberate themselves, to free themselves from this machine. They don't know that it exists. They live in the false self that is produced. Now, today is the 1st of April, 2022, and we have all been appalled and surprised by the horrible behavior of Will Smith in Hollywood during the Oscars, where he attacked and smacked and gave a surprise blow to Chris Rock, who was the person on stage at that time, who made a joke about his wife. His wife, Jada, has a condition, an autoimmune disease that makes hair fall off. I have 3 autoimmune diseases that are more serious than what she have, and usually people have a lot of serious autoimmune diseases, more serious than what she have, and furthermore, people are suffering from cancer, they are paralyzed, they are crippled, they have had a stroke, they have had a heart attack. So to sit there and cry over the fact that you have a little minor autoimmune disease that you perfectly well can live with, it's not going to kill you. You just have to shave your head, which to some people is actually becoming them. It looks smart, you know, it looks high class, it looks nice, it looks intelligent, and it can be really beautiful as well. Now, if we are not able to take a joke about ourselves, if we are not able to take a joke about something that is inside the machine that is producing our life, which we do not have a fault at. It's not our fault that we have this autoimmune disease. It's not our fault that we have this problem. It's not our fault that we were paralyzed when we were 11 or 12 or 13 years old. We have to be able to take that joke. The interesting thing here is the psychology of the false self, or the psychology of the product. The self as a product. In Hollywood, every star, megastar, or superstar has to become a product. That's the name of the game. That's the deal. Even Jim Carrey says that. He's the only mensch, in Hollywood. He's the only real decent person in a way, and super intelligent and truly really clever, and with an excellent talent for recognizing aspects of life that are truly important. Will Smith, in order to succeed as an actor, he had to make himself into a product. He had to become Will Smith. And that Will Smith is, of course, a psychological self that is just an institution inside himself that he himself has created, with the help of self-help books and all these things, that how we are going to love ourselves, So the self becomes a product. And in Hollywood, the self has to become a product. And that's why people in Hollywood and in America in general are so arrogant. Arrogant simply because they are ignorant of the truth. They don't understand anything about the machine that is producing them. And they cannot see the difference between a false self, a self-created psychological self, an entity that we have created in ourselves as an instrument for survival, as an instrument of communication, as an instrument of creating success for ourselves. Some people cannot see the difference between this false self or self-created self and the true heart self that we are inside our inner heart, inside the inner heart of the human being, where we are just who we are, and many times not even that. We are just essence and purity, or God, or Atman, or the soul, or Parabrahman, or whatever. But the reason why Will Smith did what he did is because he is a result, and his behavior is a result of his own identification with the false self, or with that in him that has to act like this. And the media, especially the American media, calls this the slap. When Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, it was not a slap. It was a blow. It was an attack out of nowhere. It was a very cowardly act. It was the act of a true coward, of a wounded self that acts like a complete coward. And when you saw him walking off stage after he had attacked Chris Rock, or given him a blow or a real smack that actually could have hurt Chris Rock, let's say if the fingers of Will Smith ended up in his eyes or whatever, he could be really hurt, even if it was not a major blow, And in any case, it's just so completely stupid and so impolite. It's understandable as a reaction, as an emotional reaction. But people have to be able to see that my own reaction belongs to me. My own emotional reaction belongs to me. It's a part of my machine. It's a part of the product that constitutes me. I have to be able to take responsibility for that myself. But in America and in Hollywood in particular, the self has to become a product, and you will do anything that you can to protect this idiot product, this stupid product, this little helpless little girl in Pampers, When Will Smith went onto the stage, he was a little girl in Pampers. He was a helpless little kid. But he thought, no, I'm going to protect women. I'm going to protect mankind from malicious jokes. And he even talks about God. God is asking me to be the best that I can be. Will Smith, you have to understand that this God is your God. It's a part of your it's a part of yourself. It's a part of your own inner reality. It's a part of the machine that is constituting all of your perceptions, and especially all of your projections. This God is your God. What he asks you to do is something that your God asks you to do. You cannot drag this God down the neck, down the heads, down the skulls and minds of all the people in the world. There are 300 million different gods in this world. And you need a personal God, because the personal God for you is fueling your engine. You need that gasoline. You need that gasoline to fuel the self that is your own product. Or the product self that you cannot see, that you cannot decipher, that you cannot analyze, that you cannot deconstruct, that you cannot see the existence of, simply because you have identified it with it for so long, because you had to do that in order to become a self that could become a product, that could become the big success that Will Smith has become. And there is no awareness about this. There is no talking about this. Joe Rogan too, who's very nice sometimes, he's really very nice, the podcast host Joe Rogan. He had a guest talking about the attack, the smack of Will Smith to Chris Rock. And the guest and him were sitting and talking about combat. I don't know, but in combat, Will Smith would probably win. Look, it's so pathetic, it's so tragic, it's so pathetic and it's so tragic that these Americans are not able to understand. If you're going to be arrogant, Americans, if you're going to be proud of yourselves, then you must understand what kind of self that it is that you're proud of. What kind of self is it that you put on a pedestal? What kind of self is it that you protect in yourself? Why do you do it? And what does it actually mean? What is it in its nature? It's something that's just created. You Americans, you have to understand that you must educate yourself. You cannot be ignorant forever. Because this ignorance creates an arrogance that is really, really, really stupid and damaging to the world. You have to grow up. You have to get out of your pampers. You have to wipe the diapers clean. You have to take out all the childish stuff that doesn't belong in a grown-up society. And you have to be able to apologize. You have to be able to apologize, in a different way. This is not the man that I want to be. My behavior is not representative of the man that I want to be. No, of course not. It's not. Simply because you acted on behalf of a product self. You acted on behalf of a self that is not actually the true you. But because you live in the relationship that you do, you take responsibility for this and that and doing that and did that and do. That's okay, never mind. But it is very childish behavior, It's very childish behavior, and it hurts people, and it's no good, and you destroy not only the whole evening for a lot of people, but you destroy the opinion of the Oscars, which still has a little bit of ice cream on it, It still has a little bit of topping on the Oscar cake, but now all the topping is gone, the cream is gone, the ice cream is gone, because the only thing it's left is just an old, dirty skeleton, The Oscars is just an old dirty skeleton which we all have seen through, which is just, it's hypocrisy. It's just hypocrisy. It's just the product self, I really think it was great that Jim Carrey said what he said in his little comment, that this is what Hollywood has become, It's a very sad thing. Hollywood has the ability to become much more if they accept to integrate true knowledge of the human being into the industry. Hollywood could make a real change in the world. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But reduce the amount of violence in your idiot films, the things that you shove down the throat of mankind and that makes teenagers idolize violence and things like that. Make movies that give knowledge to the people, that activates the thing in us that can improve society and that can improve the standard and the quality of the inner life of the human being. Take responsibility. What is it that you want the world to be? What is it that you want the world to be? Do you want the world to be just a little playground for your own product self, for your own self as a product? Or do you want the world to be something beautiful, something dignified, something righteous? This is a really important question. What is it that we want the world to be? We cannot have a good world unless we accept education. And education means to understand the machine that drives our life and that constitutes life as a whole. There's so much talent in this world, and in America too. You should really focus on that which is good, great, appropriate, and talented, and intelligent. You have a lot of talent. Stanford University, the neuroscience department at Stanford, Jim Carrey, a lot of therapists and professors, and many really clever people. Elon Musk, if we just can get him down from Mars. If we could put Elon Musk on planet Earth and just take him out of the Mars bubble, then everything would be much better. Forget about Mars and improve the world. That's the thing that is important. The science behind the Neuralink is very helpful, and it can make a huge difference for people in the future if it is used correctly. We have to focus on how can we use our know-how, our knowledge in the right way, in the correct way. Forget about Mars. It's just not sustainable. It's possible, but it's not sustainable. We have to understand the difference between possible and sustainable. Yes, you can put people on Mars, but it's not sustainable because of physics. They cannot stay there for more than 3 months or 3 years. Yes, if you're really clever, you can make them stay there for 30 years, but it's just not sustainable in the long run, in the long term. Then you have to make it a complete artificial planet with an atmosphere inside the bubble that you create around it. It's just not sustainable. It's possible, but it's not sustainable. But anyway, we have to understand about this machine, because look at the war in Ukraine. Look at the Vladimir Putin. If Putin had the guts and the manhood enough to see through his own programs and come publicly about it, say that, the things that controls my mind are these projections. These projections come and stem from, of course, the world of politics, but projections are often faulty, and we see that now. The United Nations is nothing because it's just a VIP club with a lot of veto rights. What we need is a World Senate. What we need is authority. What we need is leadership, management, and authority. United Nations don't have that because they have the possibility of veto here and veto there and veto here and veto there. So there's no mandate, there's no authority, there's no true ability for action, for interference, for modification, for control, for authority, for decisions. So there's a lot to be done, and it's not difficult at all to do it. We just have to put our knowledge of ourselves into that which is the soup of life, the menu of life. We have to put the true knowledge, true education into the restaurant, into the supermarket that is our life. We have to do that. We have to grow up. What kind of a world is it that we want? We have to find that in ourselves which is good enough, dignified enough, and worthy enough of carrying the hope and the direction for the future, which can be so much better than this. It's not at all difficult. It's not difficult at all. Okay, just a little talk about the machine that controls our life and why we really should understand it, because it can lead to the improvement of basically everything. Global world society, ourselves, relationships, everything that has to do with the world problems, from pollution to ideological warfare to real warfare to corruption to financial scams to whatever, Let's improve this thing. And in order to improve this thing, we have to come clean with the programs that are producing the results that we get. Okay, thank you.